Very nice to be here, people. This is Linda and Martijn. We are from Rijksmuseum, and we are here to talk a little bit about our digital user experience. I will introduce our digital proposition to you, Rijksstudio, and then Linda will take over and she will explain to you how this worked for the Rijksmuseum, both in real life and digitally. First, I would like to start off with a short video. So this says we're back, and that's what started all this. The Rijksmuseum had been closed for 10 years for renovations, large-scale renovations, reopened in 2013, and our ambition is to be the Museum of the Netherlands. In 80 rooms, over 8,000 objects tell the story of 8 centuries of Dutch art and history. But the problem was in 2013 that people had forgotten about the Rijksmuseum, especially Dutch people. So we needed to do something about that. And even worse, people who did remember us, they thought of us as stuffy, traditional, something that you visited, a museum that you visited because you thought you had to, with your children, for instance, not because you wanted to. So we needed to communicate, we're back, we're open, we are here for everybody. And digital played a very large role in this whole process. We launched our new website with the Rijksstudio concept, and you immediately notice that this is full screen, in-your-face, high-resolution images instead of words. A difference if compared to other museum websites at the time. Rijksstudio was a very important part of this new website. Rijksstudio lets you browse, discover, zoom, collect in over 250,000 high-resolution images of the collection. It's completely open, it's completely free, and along the way you can collect everything that you particularly like in your own personal Rijksstudio. This is your own private little collection within the larger part of the Rijksmuseum collection. And what you see here is part of the timeline on the homepage of the museum. So if you start your own Rijksmuseum collection, you will appear on the top of the museum timeline. You will have your 5 minutes of fame, or if you start this in the middle of the night, it will perhaps be an hour of fame, because you will drop down as other collections are being added all the time. It's a continuous process. And this is an example of what you might call a user-generated museum. And there is one other thing. All the images that you like, you can also download, not only the whole image, but also, as you see here, a detail of the image. And you can do with this whatever you want. They are completely free, both for private use and for commercial use. And Linda will explain later how this completely rebranded the museum on a digital level. So now we say in Airbnb, everybody is a hotel manager. On eBay, everybody is a businessman or woman. On Instagram, everybody's a photographer. And in Rijksstudio, everybody is a museum director. And what this meant for the museum is going to be presented by Linda, so I'm going to hand over the clicker.
Okay. Well, what we try to do is engage more people, engage new audiences, and by by putting our collection online, we can not only reach new others, we can show and present our collection to the public, but we also let people look at a different way and look people at their own in their own way, because our collection is now available 24/7. Everybody can have a look at it and have full access to it. And then the funny thing is, when you see that people start collecting their own works of art, their own preferences, making their own studio sets, that there are several ways of different looking. At this example, you see someone who pictured only the left bottom sides of paintings because he thinks that's interesting. And that's something different. We couldn't have done that ourselves as a museum. We are trying to connect people with art and history, and we have to explain about the significance and the art historian value of works of art. And users, normal users, use art in a different way in their own lives with a different meaning. And this is a perfect example. You see different things, you see details of a painting you've never experienced before, and you can use it for your own purposes in your own way. You see another example here. It's a cat collection. We didn't know that, but how many cats there were present in our collection. We have 1 million objects which need to be digitized. We're halfway now. But we've got a lot of cats and dogs in our collection. And here's someone who collected very fanatically all images of cats. So it's very interesting because I'm not sure how who this man or woman is. Oh. Is that okay?
Dankjewel. Prima. Gaan we zo verder. We're not sure who this person is, but and if this person would go to the museum, but we're connected digitally, and that's very important for us because we think that digitally we can reach people everywhere and also non-museum goers. So that's a very important asset for us to be available and open for all after all those years of renovation. And it helps because it's not highbrow art, maybe what people do with that or what people are looking for, but at least they get connected with our collection, and that's our main purpose. It helps us activating our brand and recognition and enhances our brand awareness. But not only, we want to do more than only let people enjoy our collection, indulge our collection. What we also do is, what we want is that people actively reuse our collection. And that's that was very new when we launched the Rijksstudio project, because museums were always keeping their collection to themselves and having the ownership of their collection, and thinking that the original was so, and it is, we always believe that the original is leading, but we do think that reproductions or remixes of works of art can give our pieces of art and our old masters a new meaning and can get relevance in today's world, and that's what we want to do. What you see here is a tattoo developed by Droog Design. It's a renowned design agency, and they, based on a flower still life by De Heem, they developed this tattoo. And we, at the launch of Rijksstudio in 2012, we distributed that, and you see that within the combination of a tattoo and a floral still life is surprising, and people liked it a lot. So we still get questions, where are the tattoos? So I'm not sure if you brought one, no? Oh, otherwise we could give you one. But that's very important to us to bring the collection into life, into a wide audience. We also asked another designer to get creative with our pieces of art, and I'm going to show you a video by Christian Borslap, who designed the current exhibition in the Rijksmuseum Hercules Segers 2. And he used 211 works of art of the Rijksmuseum and made this clip and put it in a completely different context.
So much to lose, but here in your arms, it's heaven. I can wait for you now, but not forever.
Not only Christian Borslap designers we asked to work with our collection, but also some of our partners. We have 20 partners, 20 sponsors, amongst others Heineken. And here you see an example of our art on a beer bottle. Or you can, here you see another example by Droog Design, something completely different. The agency developed a dining table based on 17th century silver pieces and pieces of glass. So you see a completely different setup, and that's what we really like. That's what we think is important, just to give a new meaning and to show that also the old pieces also the old masters are relevant in present time. A very popular one is Pon. We put the flowers on the vans, and they got a lot of questions for these vans later, although they were meant for the opening of the launch of Rijksstudio. Another way, completely different way, just to reach new audiences, is a partnership with Albert Heijn. We put 16 pieces of art on our milk cartons. And the idea behind that was to get a discussion at the kitchen table, at a low-key, low-profile basis, just a normal discussion about art, because we think that you don't need to have a lot of information about the pieces of art. What we just want is people to stimulate to look at art and to experience what they feel and what they think. And we don't want people to have, pressure people to have all the knowledge. So we wanted to do that at a different setting, not in the museum, but also without, maybe without even going to the museum. So we were looking for pinpoints amongst around the museum visits, dus the whole customer journey, in fact. And the idea is when you let people know, experience our art, people will get interested and will go to the museum later, but that's not our primary goal. Our first goal is to introduce our art to a wide variety of people. But of course we wanted to stimulate others too to get creative. And we had a partnership with Etsy. And Etsy, probably know the resellers platform. people make art and sell their art. And we asked, I guess, 5 Etsy resellers to make new creations based on works in Rijksstudio. And they did that, and it was a huge success. So it helps us to get our brand across all over the world. Another example you see here is by just an ordinary user. This picture was sent to us through social media. And this is a picture of blinds for a cooking studio, a woman who was organizing cooking classes. And she wanted to have nice pieces of art on her blinds. So we think it's a very nice example of what people can do with our collection. What was the success of this Rijksstudio? We think there are several factors, and the most important thing is that we put the focus on the image, the collection first. And if you go to the website and go to Rijksstudio, you see that all the art is full screen available. It's on a responsive website, so either if you are looking on your mobile phone or on your desktop, you always get the art full screen. And that's very important because our collection is our asset, is our key asset, is our gold. So we did that in every aspect of this project. The second point is that we made it available for everybody on any device, and we didn't know at the time that mobile would be this important at the time. Nowadays we are using our mobiles as a primary source. Back then in 2012 it wasn't the case, but we're very lucky that we've done that, because now we are available everywhere. And the third aspect is that by giving our art away, giving our art free to everybody, we let everybody do whatever they want. It's it's a democracy. We're not only the Ministry of Good Taste, we're not as an institution, as a distant institution, the ones who decide what's art or what's not. We let it to our users. And that's a very important movement, which is, well, has begun with the Uber and the Airbnbs, but we do it in a museum way. So we think that's responsible for the success of Rijksstudio. We have yesterday we reached 300,000 Rijksstudio sets. So it's we're very lucky with that. Here you see something different, the impact what it has on the museum. And the most important thing is for us that we reached a new audience, and that's the digital native, the culture snacker we call it. And that's not particularly a museum visitor, but someone who likes design, who likes art, who likes nice things, who likes to collect inspiration. And that's very important, because when we look at research now and we ask visitors what they think of us, we have a completely different image now. We're not as traditional as before, and people like going to the museum, and we see it on social media too, and even children saying, "Oh, I'm going to the Rijksmuseum tomorrow." So it's completely different, and we believe that by giving our pieces of art at a low key level, helped us reaching new audiences, which we couldn't have reached if we haven't done this. Apart from that, we think that by giving our art, we reach a deeper level of engagement. People not only look at their pieces of art and they can look at the pieces of art in the tiniest detail, but they can also download pieces of art, or they can work with it, they can rework it. We don't care what people do with it. It's fine by us. So we think that and the nicest thing is that people, when they are making creations, they have a little piece of the Rijksmuseum in their house. So we're present everywhere in this case, and that's one way of engaging. And that also affected the traditional role of museums. And I'm very happy that that museums are opening up. And you see it, we're not the only ones, but other museums like the British Museum or the Met and others are opening up their collections as well. And that's very important. We see ourselves as a custodian of our art, but the collection itself belongs to everybody. And it helps us to be relevant at all times. So that are the most important things for us. We have a design competition for the Rijksstudio as well. We've done this for the third time now, for the third time in a row, because we actually want to help people being creative. So we have a design competition. We have the call for entries now. The competition is open, and I want to show you a little clip of the competition, what it's about, and about the previous designs. Okay, this is about our design competition. We think that 90% of the entries will be made with Adobe products, because it's a digital competition, and you can send in your designs digitally. And I'm sure that people are using Photoshop or PDF or something. But this is one way of stimulating people to get creative, and the entries are evaluated by an international jury with design and digital natives. The entry is open now, and this is a clear example of how we want to stimulate new talent, and how we want to let people get inspired and surprised by our collection.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Linda and Martijn. It was a great, great story. I like the competition so much that you just put out. You know, mobilizing this creative potential. I'm sure you'll be talking to our local marketing team to see how we can help you mobilize our creative community with that. So, great initiative, great story. I think great potential it holds. We've got some time left here, more than 5 minutes. So that's great. Before you go to the break, so. A couple of questions came in, so I think you kind of decide who will take it. But one question came in is that, so as people do all this creative with your work, are you open to display some of that new art that is being created with that artwork in your digital museum or in your physical museum? Have you thought about that? And a sub-question, sorry, it's a two-way question. And a sub-question, if you have thought about it, how do you think about the curation of that content?
We did think about that, obviously. In your own personal Rijksstudio, you can not only collect the works of the museum, but you can also add your own creations to showcase them to the world and also to be inspirational to others. And this is not something that's been very successful. afraid to say, but no, people tend to be a little bit hesitant to add their own creations, but it is possible, and we have seen some very fine examples. If you are on the long list of the Rijksstudio Award, we will have the 10 finalists on display in the museum for a certain period. Also, I should mention that last year's runner-up, who you might have recognized with the pig's head in the short video, they came up with the idea of Rijksconserve. It was a sort of food line based on Rijksmuseum still lifes. They have a chutney, they have jams, they have a very nice lemonade as well. And this has gone into production, actual production, so we can sell this at the Rijksmuseum shop. First year's winners, the eyeshadow based on colors of paintings. We have been working very hard to put that on the market, but in the end, it was too difficult for us, being museum people and not cosmetics people. But we will look at things like that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have here is, so as you open up and you target this new audience, are you able at this point already to track what impact that has on kind of visits to the physical museum? So conversion from these newcomers to visits into the actual museum, and maybe you can tell like what your thoughts around it, how you track that, or what your plans are for tracking that.
Well, we can't track, we can't see a direct relation, of course, but we did see that in the first year after the opening of the museum, we had 31% of people who said they never visited the museum and had the intention to go. So we look at we do regularly visitor research, and we do investigate whether people are first-time visitors or repeat visitors. So we're very, very glad with the percentage of 31%. And we can't say it's all because of the Rijksstudio initiative. It's also all the other activities we do, of course, but it really helped. And where you see it too is at people do know what we have in our collection. Before the reopening, only 50% of the Dutch audience knew that we had a night watch in our collection. And I think that has changed now. And I think that Rijksstudio has contributed to that.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have here is probably about it's around the IP. So all of these assets, all this art that you made available, is that all kind of copyright free? Can people really use that? And if I might add to that, kind of my personal question when I came here, like how was the sentiment for that? Typically, when you open up your key asset, your kind of key trigger to get to the museum and see this work real life, we have the same with events and broadcasting events. I think all these marketers will come across that very tricky question that I kind of tackle. So maybe you can combine the two. That would be great.
Well, I hope I can. Of course, we are in the lucky position that most of the artists in the Rijksmuseum collection have been dead for centuries. So we're not really bothered by intellectual property rights, but even so, that the success of Rijksstudio has led to a development where living artists actively inquire if we could add their work to the collection. And this goes mainly for photographers, of course. And I think that's really wonderful, because photography is the prime example of a work of art that you could make a very good copy of using Rijksstudio. And even so, people think that this is such a nice proposition that they want to be a part of that, and don't consider the possible property rights infringement or whatever. So that the success of Rijksstudio has, led to more living artists in Rijksstudio. And also, on the other hand, we have many people who are lending or giving works of art for the Rijksmuseum collection. And in the old days, they were very hesitant for things like that, because
they had nightmare scenarios of their work of art on a coffee mug or a T-shirt, and they would think, well, I have to prevent that. But now they see that even though there are still many coffee mugs out there and T-shirts, that people do not misuse, they do not abuse your work of art in Rijksstudio. On the other hand, they get creative with it. And even if you personally don't really like what people make of it, it is always very, it's always done in a very nice fashion. It's never obscene or discriminatory or anything. So this also helped lenders and givers to the museum to change their mind.
I understand that there will build trust for future contributors. Yeah,
Exactly, yes.
All right. We actually run out of time. I had more questions, but so sorry we couldn't get to all of these. But I want to thank you. I want to free up my hands here, which still will be a challenge. But I want to thank you for your contribution to your speech. Really appreciate it. We love to see you in future. Thank you for setting up this competition and mobilizing our designers that I'm sure will love to contribute. And we hope to see you again. Thank you very much.